long time no see. Sorry that it took so long for me to make the last update. The last update that I had on here, I believe I was 28 weeks pregnant. And yeah, sorry about that. And thank you for all the messages that I got from everyone asking if I'm okay. You know, where can you do another update? I tried very hard, but I just wasn't able to. I'm still in school, and for anyone who hasn't seen previous videos, I'm alone with my son who's 2, and so I'm a full-time parent on top of going to school and being pregnant, and we're gonna be moving in about a week all the way across the country. So there was just a lot going on, and that I couldn't commit the time to make an update. I'm very sorry. So obviously this video is the birth video, and I'm going to go over in detail everything that happened. Hopefully I don't miss anything. I have my notes, which is like 3 pages long to remind me, because I still have pregnancy brain pretty bad, and I'm just very, very forgetful. And then I also have a slideshow at the end of a couple pictures of the baby and of me in the hospital, and just what I went through there. And then throughout the video I have a couple of very short video clips of the hospital room, and that's basically all that I could get. It was too chaotic, and I'll explain why, to get everything on video, the whole entire thing. So to begin, it was Thanksgiving weekend, after Thanksgiving weekend, or the weekend after Thanksgiving. My husband came out to visit from Massachusetts. We're living in California right now, and we haven't seen each other for, my son and I haven't seen my husband in like about 5 months at that time. And so it was awesome to see him. So we were able to spend Thanksgiving together, and then he left Sunday morning. And we were so hoping that I was going to go into labor while he was here, so he could help with taking care of my son, dropping me off at the hospital. And also my case manager, she wanted to be there at the hospital with me, and she was available Thanksgiving to Thanksgiving, like Thursday until Sunday, because she didn't have her kids. And so she was like, make sure to have lots of sex to get things going. And so I'm like, okay, we'll try. And so yeah, didn't work out. My husband left Sunday morning around 9 o'clock, or actually 8 o'clock, to get to the airport. And my water broke that night, Sunday night at 10:30. And you see it in movies and stuff of, women's water breaking when they're pregnant and then they go into labor, but it's actually really rare. And I didn't even know that. I guess less than 10% of women have their water break before labor starts. Usually it's the other way around. So it was that night, and I'm laying in bed and watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Guilty pleasure. And my son is playing games on his iPad, and I feel this gush of fluid come out, and we were like about to put his iPad away, and I'm usually like on my phone for about a half an hour before we go to bed. And I was about to put all like our devices away, and I go to the bathroom one more time, and so I had to go to the bathroom. So I'm like, I didn't pee my pants, did I? Like, I know I have more control than that. And I'm like, no, my water just broke. And so I was like shocked. And so I went to the bathroom, and my pants were everything was just soaked. And so I'm sitting there on the toilet, like trying to clean up, and I call my roommate on my phone, and I'm like, my water just broke. And we had made arrangements already that if, when I go to the hospital to give birth, that she would take care of my son. and which just worked out really well. So she came running into the bathroom, and I'm like, I don't think you want to see this. And she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. Just panicking, you know, because I was waiting for the pain, for the contractions to start, but they never did. And so I'm like, do you mind, you know, give me a ride to the hospital? She's like, of course, you know, like my husband is going to go get the car started. And so she's like, I got your son. And I'm like, thank you so much. Like it really helped out. And so I had my hospital bag like 90% packed. The only thing I need to add was like my toothbrush and things that I use on a daily basis, and some clothes. So I'm trying to go as fast as I can, because in my contract it says that, you know, you need to get to the hospital as soon as labor starts. And so I'm just trying to make sure my son is okay, my bag is packed, that my roommate's okay, you know, like with taking care of him, like giving her instructions like how to put him to bed, and then also calling the agency to notify them what's going on, and then for the agency to tell the attendant mother, you know, that I'm going into labor. So got my bag packed, still nothing, no contractions whatsoever. I was probably out the door in probably less than a half an hour. And so then my roommate's husband, well, he's also my roommate, drove me to the hospital, and I put a towel on the seat because I was still leaking. And so like I put a pad on because of that reason. And because I heard, like, you know, that you keep leaking, and I did. So I put a towel on the seat, in the car seat, and luckily I didn't leak anything like through my pants. And so I get to the hospital, and he drops me off, and he's like, do you want me to go in there with you? And I'm like, no, I'm okay, like someone's coming from the agency. And that was the other thing, is that the agency told me that if I didn't have anyone there at the hospital with me, that they would send someone, which I was entirely grateful for, because it would have been very lonely, you know, going through that without someone who's just at least a little familiar, that you're at least a little familiar with. So I get to the hospital, and they have this separate birthing center, and it's open 24 hours, which is pretty cool. And so I go in there, and I go up to the glass window with the receptionist, and I'm like, hi, my water broke. And all three ladies who were in there like turned to look at me, because I said it just so casually. And she's like, okay, fill out this form. And I just thought it was, I don't know, like what if like I was in like intense pain, you know, or something, like I still have to fill out that form. But I still wasn't. There still was no contractions whatsoever. So I filled the form out. They let me go through the double doors, and they said, sit here and wait, and the nurse will come and like check you and go to an observation room or something. And so I said, okay. So I'm sitting there, and I sat there for like 15 minutes. I couldn't believe it. And I thought again, like good thing that I'm not in any pain, because like if I was, I would be extremely uncomfortable. And I don't know, I just thought that was kind of long to wait. So the nurse comes out, and she just explained a couple of things, like what she's gonna be doing. And then she took my weight, and I'm like, I really don't want to know how much I weigh right now. And but I hit 190. I was like, oh wow. And so throughout the pregnancy I gained a total of 40 pounds, and which is funny because that's the exact amount that I gained with my son. And I was like, good thing that she's coming out today, because then I can work on, you know, just losing all that weight. And so then we go back to this this very small room, and she gave me this gown, this hospital gown, and she said, take absolutely everything off besides your socks if you want to leave them on, and then sit down, or like, you know, get back into the bed, and I'll come and check on you in a few minutes. So I did, and the gown was the most ugly thing. It had like this symbol of like the Navy or something. I don't even know, like it was just so weird. I'm like, and it says San Diego on it. I'm like, we're not San Diego, like we're not even close. And it was just very faded, and I was like, man, I'm like, you guys are really gonna get new gowns. and you'll see it like in the video, in the clips and the pictures that I have. So I'm sitting there on the bed and I'm waiting for a good amount of time again, and same nurse. And this nurse so she came back and she was really strict, and that was probably the only nurse that I didn't like through the whole process. And I'm like, of course it was like the intake nurse. So she asked me if I knew what labs, or if I had any paperwork from my OB of like just all my medical records, and I said no, they never gave me anything. And she's like, do you know what lab you went through to have all my blood work done? And I said, I think it was LabCorp, but you know, I'm not 100%. So they couldn't find my records like anywhere of like the GS group strep B or something test that they do at 36 weeks, and all the blood work that they had done the entire pregnancy. They couldn't find any of it. So they had to redo everything. Just to make sure that, you know, just to be safe. So a phlebotomist came in and she like retook like 8 to 12 tubes of blood, and then they did the group, I know I got it mixed up, group test B or group B test or whatever, to see if it was positive or negative, because obviously if it was positive they need to start me on antibiotics right away. And so and then the other thing that they tested was to see if my water did rupture. And it did. So my water is completely ruptured, and she took it really seriously, and she wouldn't even let me get out of bed. And so I had to go to the bathroom, and she wouldn't even let me go to the bathroom. Like she brought a bedpan out for me, and I'm like, really? Like is this really necessary? And she just wouldn't explain anything of like what she was doing. And so I asked, and so like later on, like I asked her, why can't I get out of bed? And she said that it's too dangerous or something. And so I'm like, okay, why is it too dangerous? And she said, I guess that depending on how the baby, how close the baby's head is to the cervix, that if there's like a little gap, that the umbilical cord, because my water broke, the umbilical cord could like slip out. And I'm like, okay, well now I'm freaked that like the umbilical cord is gonna slip out. And so then so then she gave me a bedpan, and it took me like 10 minutes to go, because it was just so uncomfortable, and it's just such an awkward position. So then she comes back in, and she takes it, and it's just, I don't know, I didn't like that at all. So then she so I got to the hospital like 11:30, and so now it's about like it took like a whole hour for her to check me in and everything. And finally at 12:30 at night, she checked my cervix for the first time, and that was the first time that my cervix had been checked the whole entire pregnancy. My OB doctor didn't want to check me at all. He wasn't a fan of it, I guess you would say. He just thinks it's not a good indicator or estimator of when labor is going to start, and he just rather not introduce bacteria close to your cervix or in your cervix. And so I was only 2 centimeters dilated, and so that was at 12:30. And then around 1 a.m. is when Amanda came from the agency, and so it's like for an hour and a half I was like alone, and I was like just trying to like post on social media, you know, that I'm in the hospital and what was going on. And so then like once she got in, but it was still lonely. So I was very glad that she showed up, and I hadn't met her before. I had talked to her on the phone once before, but I had never met her. And but we like hit it off really well, and she had been a surrogate twice before. So we just had like just story after story after story the whole entire time I was there. It was like, you know, those people that you meet that you just instantly click with. She was that person. And so it worked out so well with her coming. And so yeah, so she got there at 1 a.m. So a little later on, the test came back for the group B test and it was positive. And I just thought that was strange, because when they tested me at 36 weeks in my OB office, I was negative. So, and then a nurse later told me that it could bounce around, like it could come back positive, it can come back negative, like just interchangeably. And I thought that was weird. So so the nurse was setting up an IV, and she told me that she needs to put an IV in me for like fluid for like nutrition. And I just did not like that idea at all, and I asked her how long would I have the IV in for, and she said it, you know, like until after you give birth. And I've never had an IV before, and with my son, I never had one before, so I was just scared, and I just didn't like the thought of a needle staying in there, especially when you're trying to push a baby out. And so she was like, oh, it's just standard protocol. And so here's a clip for me freaking out a little bit about the IV going in.
But it shouldn't hurt because the vein's like right there, right?
Yeah, it's right there.
Oh my god, that's a big needle. Can I hold on to something? Do you have a stress ball?
Yeah, I didn't like that at all. And then the nurse called my doctor, and she told him everything that was going on. And he said give it a little time to observe to see if I was going to start labor on my own. Because I was researching on my phone what happens when your water breaks. And I guess that labor can start like between 12 to 24 hours after your water breaks. And I was like, wow, I didn't know that at all. So he wanted to see if labor was going to start on its own, and if by 5 a.m. if it didn't start, they were going to start me on Pitocin. So the strict nurse that I was still with made it sound like I didn't have a choice, that like that was doctor's orders. And so she gave me the paper to like initial and to sign, and I'm reading it, and it says you know, you don't have to agree to this, you know, it's your choice. So I asked her, I'm like, do I have to sign this? Like, do I have to start Pitocin? Because I've heard how Pitocin makes contractions worse. And so like that's what I was scared of, and I just wanted to give my body a little more time to see if it was naturally going to start labor on its own. And so she's like, no. She's like, you don't have to. She's like, that's just, you know, that's your right to choose, but you just know that the doctor would like for you to start Pitocin at 5 a.m. So I'm like, well, you didn't explain it like that. She made it sound like you're starting Pitocin at 5 a.m. whether you like it or not. So I'm like, okay, I'd rather give my body at least a couple more hours just to see. But I knew, you know, that I didn't want to give it too much time, because there's that rule that you have to get the baby out within 24 hours after your water breaks. So about 4 a.m. rolls around, and we were transferred to a bigger room, and this room was the room that I delivered in. And I was so glad, because I thought it was going to be that small room, and I'm like, wow, I'm gonna like rip the walls off with how loud I'm gonna be with delivering. And I'm like, I'm gonna horrify patients in the hallway. And so when they transferred me, they again would not let me get out of bed. They had to wheel me down while laying down in the bed to the bigger room. And it just, like, I don't know, I didn't like being constrained to a bed like that. So then I get to the bigger room, and that's when it just went so much better. The nurses were so much better. They're so much friendlier, so much more informative of everything that was going on. And so once I got to the bigger room, and then Amanda got like this little bed to lay down near the window. And she was able to take a nap while we were waiting for labor to start, and I was able to sleep a little bit too. But yeah, the nurses were so much better there. And I asked them, you know, can I asked them for a bedpan, and they asked why, and I'm like, I had to go to the bathroom. They're like, oh no, you can go to the bathroom. And I'm like, well, what the frick? Like, she told me I couldn't go to the bathroom, and now you're telling me I can go to the bathroom. But I was just thrilled that I could go to the bathroom myself. And it was just a big mess, because like they had like all these monitors hooked up to me. They had like, I had the IV stand, and then like just all these wires and everything. And I just don't like hospitals and doctors and everything. And so just being like hooked up like that, I didn't like it at all. Because with my son, I was like free to roam wherever I wanted to go. Like I even had my own bathing suit on. Like I labored in my own bathing suit, not their gown. And I just felt a lot more freedom with my son, with my son's birth. So this was just like completely different. So now every single time I had to go to the bathroom, it was just chaos. Because I just felt like a robot with all these wires on me. And so then I think they checked my cervix at, yeah, so nothing still happened. And the nurse checked my cervix at 6:30 a.m. was the next time, and I still was only 2 centimeters dilated. I was having like 2 contractions every hour, and that's it. Like, just nothing was happening. Oh, that looks so much better. Oh, I wish I would have turned the light on a long time ago. So yeah, so she checked me at 6:30, still nothing had happened. And I asked her, you know, if she thought it was a good idea that if she could start Pitocin. And she said, yeah, that's what I would suggest to do. But her shift was gonna end at 7 a.m. So she said the next round of nurses that come in, they'll be the ones to, you know, I'll update them everything that's going on, and they'll be the ones to start you on Pitocin. So everything was like really slow at this hospital. So that was at 6:30 when I told her that, you know, I wanted to start Pitocin, and I didn't officially start it until like 8:45. And it took the two nurse, well, because the new nurse that came in, she was training another new nurse, but she wasn't a new nurse, she just was transferring from another hospital. So she was like showing her everything, and like I understood, you know, like you have to get trained, but I was just very anxious for things to start up. And so I could deliver, go home to my son. So I had a schedule. But yeah, so at 8:45 they started me on 2 milliliters per minute of Pitocin, and they were like observing, you know, how the baby's heartbeat was responding to it, and she was perfectly fine. And then they told me that they're going to increase the Pitocin by 2 milliliters every half an hour, and as long as the baby was okay. And she was fine the whole entire time, which was just awesome. There's no complications with her. So as soon as, well, not as soon as, but soon after when they started the Pitocin, I could really start feeling the contractions. And I was excited at first, because I was like, yes, you know, like now we're getting somewhere, and man, does that stuff work. So they upped it every 2 milliliters up until 8 milliliters. That's all it took. And I was contracting so regularly that they stopped right there. They're like, you don't need any more. Like, this is, your body's like responding really well to it. So from 8:45, at 8:45 I was again 2 centimeters dilated. And then they checked me again at 12:30, and they said between a 3 and a 4 centimeters dilated. And I was just bummed, because I wanted it to be more. And because with my son, when I went into the hospital, I was already 6 centimeters dilated. So I was just like, man, I still have a long ways to go. And so that was at 12:30, and so I'm hooked up to the IV and everything. Like, I have Pitocin going, and in my mind, you know, like people telling me that when you're on Pitocin, it's a lot more intense. And so the contractions were getting really, really intense. And so I asked them for pain relief, because they kept asking. So I'm like, well, you know, like I already have an IV in me already. And so they're like, well, we can give you Nubain, or we can give you an epidural. And I definitely didn't want the epidural. Just the thought of a needle in my back just freaks me out. So I asked, and they said that the epidural takes away all the pain. The Nubain just takes off the edge. And I'm like, let me try the new bane, you know, let me try that. So at 1 p.m. they gave me the new bane, and I was just, I felt like I was drunk. I called my husband up on FaceTime, and I'm talking with him, and he's just like, man, it sounds like you're having a good time. Because like Amanda and I were just making jokes, and we were making jokes with my husband, and like I could still feel the contractions, but they just weren't as intense, and I just was just so out of it. And so then like about 2 p.m. hit, and I'm still on the phone with my husband, and the nurses keep on coming in and out, and that's when things started to get pretty intense. And I told my husband, I'm like, can I call you back a little later on if they give me a new dosage of this? I'm like, because I told him that I was in quite a bit of pain. And so he said, yeah, of course. So they can only give you the new bane every 2 hours. So only an hour had gone by, and within that hour I went from a 3 to 4 to a 5 to 6. And so then the contractions were so intense that I asked them for an epidural, because I was like, if I don't know how long I can take this, because they were just crazy intense. And the reason why they were crazy intense is because at 2 p.m. I was at she said more of a 5 cent, I was more at 5 centimeters dilated, and that was at 2. At 2:20 I was at 8 centimeters dilated. So I dilated 3 centimeters in only 20 minutes. But at 2 I signed the paperwork for the epidural, and they said it's going to be an hour still, and then for the anesthesiologist to come down, and because there was like a list of women that he had to go through, and then after that hour, once everything's hooked up, that it still takes about a half an hour for you to feel get pain relief. I'm like, oh my Lord, like I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna make it an hour and a half. And so at 2:20 I remember seeing, she wasn't new, but like the transferred nurse who was new to that hospital. She checked my cervix, and she saw I was at an 8. And I just remember seeing her face look not horrified, but just like, you need, and then like I remember her looking at the other nurse and saying, you need to call the doctor, because he was on call, my delivering doctor. I believe he was at home. She's like, you need to call the doctor, and he needs to get here like now. And so because I was dilating so quickly. So so that was at 2:20, and I remember looking over at Amanda, and I'm like, this baby's going to be born before 3 p.m. I'm like, she's gonna be here within 40 minutes. So the contractions just kept on just being crazy intense. The new bane, it wasn't taking anything away anymore. I felt every single contraction, and just try to breathe it through, and again, like it sucked being constricted to the bed, because I could only go side to side to deal with the pain. And so I was gripping onto the bed rail like crazy to take away the pain. And the nurse was trying to get me to relax my hand, and I'm like, no, like this is like, I'm focusing all my energy on gripping this right now to try to take away this pain. And she's like, okay. So then at 2, I would say between 2:20 and 2:40, so they called the doctor at 2:20, he's on his way, and at 2:40 they checked me again, and I was at a 9.5, and at 2:20, when I was 8 centimeters dilated, I started feeling pressure down there, and I was like, whoa, like holy crap. And I think that's why I turned to Amanda and I told her, I'm like, this baby's coming like now. And so then like between 2:20 and 2:40 there was just like chaos in the room, because they were trying to prep the room for delivery, because everything was just happening so fast with my body, and they knew it too. So they had to call up an emergency room doctor who wasn't even a delivering doctor, but he still had training. And so he checked me and he confirmed that I was 9.5 centimeters dilated, and I think that was at about 240. And so he was like, holy crap, like she was just 5 centimeters dilated like not too long ago. And so he looked scared to me. Like, I don't know how many babies he's delivered, but I was like, I don't know, like I could just sense that he was a little nervous. And so I'm like, oh great, you know. And so I remember when he told me that I was 9.5 centimeters dilated, and I had Amanda by the bedside, and I'm like, are you ready to play football? Because I knew she was gonna come out like just so quickly, because I knew she was a small baby. And so like even being in all that pain, I was like chuckling. And Amanda couldn't believe that I was still like kind of laughing still, being in that much pain. So my delivering doctor gets there, and just in time. Like he had just enough time to wash his hands and to get by me and to check me. And like as he's washing his hands, he was like, you can like start trying to push. And I'm like, no, I'm not pushing until you're right there, because I am so afraid that she's gonna come out like right now. And then the other thing is when the emergency doctor checked my cervix, when he said it was 9.5 centimeters dilated, he said that she was at a +1. So she was already just right there. And so it was cool. Like they had like these stirrups, and they were like padded for my legs to go on. And then there was these two like handles that they popped up, and it was just like so fitting to like have a baby, you know, like like the way that the bed was designed was just awesome. And I didn't have that with delivering my son. It took me 2.5 hours to get my son out, and he was 7 pounds 14 ounces. And the reason is because I was holding my own legs, and I had like no direction whatsoever from the doctor. The doctor was like really old, and he wasn't saying like anything to me. He was just like sitting down there, just like bored. And the other two nurses just were like hardly giving me any direction. And but with this birth, it was just awesome. There was like, I think there was about 8 to 10 people in the room, and they were all like giving me direction. Oh no, it was mainly this one nurse that was right at my right side. And she just helped me so much, like with the breathing. And she was just like in my face, like right here. And she was just like, because I was going like that, like long, and she was telling me to pant, like, and it helped. It was crazy, like how much it helped me. And so like every single contraction, she was just like right there, like right in my ear, like telling me exactly how to breathe. And then when it came time to push, she gave me like step-by-step direction, like, okay, now put your chin to your chest, hold on to the bars, take a deep breath. As soon as you feel the contraction coming on, work with the contraction, take a deep breath, hold it, and try to give 3 pushes, like as hard as, like as strong as you can. I can only do 2, just because I was just in crazy pain, and just like with how fast everything was going, I was just like, holy crap. let me take a breather right now. And so, and then like the doctor also was like trying to instruct me, but he was just like, he was just all into it, like, all right, let's do this, like, come on, Brittney. And I was just like, it felt like I had like a cheerleading team. So it was just amazing, like just having that encouragement. And because like with my son, it was like completely opposite. It was just like silent in the room. And so so I believe that, and I asked Amanda, and I'm like, how fast did she come out? And I got her out in 5 minutes. And I think it was between 6 and 8 pushes, and she was out. And I remember at the very last like push of getting her out, I just like let this huge like yell out. Just because like it was just painful, and it was just like, basically I gave like all my energy that I had just like bottled up to just that one last push. And I just remember it being so loud that like everyone was just like silent for a couple of seconds after. And like I just remember seeing Amanda's face just looking like horrified the whole entire time. She told me that she had never seen, because because she's been to like, I think she said like 30 surrogates births, and she had never seen one without an epidural before. And so she probably just like, oh my gosh, like she's in so much pain, can you do something for her? But so yeah, so the baby was born at 2:54, and her APGAR score was a 9 both times. So she was just awesome, just very healthy. She looked amazing. And before all this, they asked me while I was like going through the labor if I wanted to do skin to skin with the baby. And the reason why is because the mother wasn't there, the intended mother of the baby. And so she was gonna get there Tuesday her flight was landing Tuesday at 8 a.m. and the baby girl was born at 2:54 p.m. Monday. So I knew the whole time that she wasn't going to be there for the birth. And throughout this pregnancy, I was telling myself, I was just very unemotionally attached to the baby because, obviously it's not mine, and I didn't have a relationship with the parents, like, at all. Like, the parents had to contact the agency, and the agency would contact me if they ever had a question. If I had a question for them, same thing. I never had direct contact with them. And there's reasons for that. They're a little bit personal, so I won't get into that. But so for me, like, it just felt like a complete stranger, this baby. But when I heard that like the mom wasn't gonna be there, and just like thinking of this little baby girl like coming out into the world alone, and I'm the only one that's familiar to her, I was like, okay, like I'll do skin to skin with her for like the hour that they recommend. And then when she came out and I saw her, I just had like instantly just this motherly, like, like the mama bear, like, just let me take care of her until her mother shows up kind of thing. And so she's laying on my chest, and they're wiping her off and everything, and she was trying so hard to breastfeed. She was trying so hard to get to my nipple, and I'm like, no, like, that is not happening. I'll give you skin to skin, but that is too far. And the agency, they always tell the surrogates, don't breastfeed the baby. Like, it, because breastfeeding moms, they know that it just creates this bond, and it just makes it harder to basically give the baby to the parents. And so I'm like just talking to her and just trying to soothe her, and she's getting mad at me because I wouldn't give her what she wanted. It was really sweet. And so then after the hour was up, they took her and they weighed her, and she was only 5 pounds and 9 ounces. She was tiny, but she was 19 inches long, so she was really long though. And so then after they wiped her off, they asked me if I wanted to hold her again, and I'm like, yeah, like, just let me hold her until we get her to the nursery. And so I had her, and she was again wrapped up, just trying to get to me. And I would let Amanda hold her, and she would be fine. She would be crying, but then like she would hand her back to me, and she would start crying again. Look who woke up from his nap. Don't touch. Hot. See the fire? So then I'm gonna try to finish this with him. So then they put me in a wheelchair, and they said, we're gonna roll you upstairs for the recovery, where the recovery room is, and in the nursery. And so I was still holding on to her all the way up to the recovery room. And so they put me in the recovery room, and that's when they took her to go to the nursery to bathe her. And so I was a little upset because there wasn't anything showing that I could give the baby my breast milk. And I had it on my phone, the contract that we signed back in February. Do you want to say hi? And So I showed them it on the email, and they're like, oh, you know, we need a hard copy. And I'm like, I can email it to you so you can like print it out. But I guess it wasn't good enough. So I'm like, okay, she's just gonna have to be, you know, on formula. So I got to the room, and or after I got to the room, Amanda went and got me Subway. She's like, because she, you know, she knows how nasty hospital food is, and it was, yeah, it wasn't good there. The food was nasty. I only had like a couple of, I think I had like the bread on the tray, and that's about it. So after, soon after I ate and I was all settled, Amanda left to go home. So she just wanted to make sure that I was all set, and I was. And I tried to pump for the first time, and I was able to get 15 cc's of colostrum out, and that was a pretty good amount, but that was the only time. After that, throughout the night, I would wake up probably like every 2 to 4 hours, and I would try pumping. I would only get like drops out, and that's it. And so then when they wheeled me up to the recovery room, they also gave me another bag of Pitocin to help my uterus to start shrinking. And so I asked her, when can I get the IV out? That was like one of my first questions after giving birth. I was just like, when can I get this off of me? And she said, oh, you know, tomorrow morning. And I'm like, I have to sleep in this? And she's like, well, she's like, it's so that when we draw the blood for the blood count in the morning, that we don't have to like re-poke you. And I'm like, I have had my blood drawn so many times with being a surrogate that I don't even feel it anymore. And I'm like, you can poke me however many times you want with the, you know, because like my veins, like they're like right there, they're like really visible. And so like I really don't feel it. I'm like, just please get this out of me. And so she's like, okay. She's like, once the bag of Pitocin is done, that she's like, I'll take it out. I'm like, thank God. I was so happy. And then like when she took it out, it was just so relieving, just to get everything just off of me. Just no more monitors, no more IV, no more just cords, and just everything. I was just like, it's like it was the first step towards me feeling like me again. So I tried to go to sleep, and I was just restless. The nursery was right across the hall from me, and I asked the nurse if I could just check on the baby. And because I was concerned, you know, because like her mom's not here, and I'm all that's familiar to her. And you know, I asked her, can I see how she's doing? And she's like, yeah, but only for 30 minutes, because we really want you to sleep. So I'm like, okay. So then I took my freshly pumped drops of colostrum over there with me so they could put it in the fridge, because they weren't giving it to the baby. They were basically just keeping it in the fridge until the mother picked her up, and then they gave her everything that I was able to pump during the hospital stay. And so I go there, and they check your bracelets and everything, and I held her, and she was sleeping. She was an angel. Like she's just such a good baby. I was like, oh. So I was just, you know, I took a couple of pictures of her, her and I, and I'll include them in the slideshow. And then I took like a couple of videos, and she just slept the whole entire time that I was holding her, and it was just like for the whole 30 minutes, and you know, I was just praying over her and her life. Sorry, I get a little emotional talking about her. So after the 30 minutes were up, I went back to my room, and I was able to get a couple hours of sleep. And I just kept on waking up during the night, just because the bed wasn't comfortable. I was all alone. It was really silent. I usually sleep with a fan on, so it was just like really. And then I always sleep with my son right next to me, like either in his toddler bed or like right next to me. So it was hard to sleep, because like I'm a mom, and like I just gave this baby away, and then I didn't have my baby. So it was just so unnatural feeling. And like some people are like, oh, you know, it's a vacation from your kids, but it's like, I don't want a vacation away from my kids, you know, like I want them with me all the time. So it just didn't feel right at all. And so I had a very hard time sleeping. So then it was about 7 a.m. the next morning that I woke up, and oh no, I think it was like, I think in the middle of the night, I'm not sure when, but I asked the nurse that was taking care of me if she could give me some more Tylenol, and it had codeine in it, and because of the afterbirth pains. And she's like, 1 or 2, and I'm like, 2. Definitely 2. And then, so yeah, at 7 a.m. I woke up and I took a shower, and that just felt so good. And then that was the other thing, is I wanted to take a shower right after birth, and or after delivering, and they said that I had to wait at least 12 hours, I believe. Yeah, at least 12 hours. And I thought that was weird. I'm like, what? And they're like, oh, you know, we just don't want you to get too dizzy. And that was the other thing that was different with my son, because when I gave birth to my son, I was able to take a shower immediately after. Like, I got out of bed and they like, oh, let's go take a shower, you know, get, you know, all the blood, and my son pooped on me and peed. So they're like, you know, like, let's wash you off. But with here, I had to wait 12 hours. So I was able to take a shower. Breakfast was delivered. And then I get a text message from Melanie, my case manager, that the mother will be there at, I think she said like 10:30 about. So I'm like, okay. And so then I'm asking the staff too, like, when I can leave, because my roommate still had my son. And so she's like asking, you know, let us know when you want us to come get you from the hospital. And so I'm like, okay. And then she had an appointment at 11 for something. So I asked the nurse if if my son could be dropped off with me, and she's, until I could leave, and she's like, yeah, that's fine. So the mother showed up like 10 minutes before my roommate with my son showed up. So I met the mother for the very first time, and she came over to me, she gave me a big hug and said, thank you. And she's Chinese, so she does speak English, but it was, you know, there was several times that it was hard to understand her. But you could just tell, you know, especially when I saw her hold the surrogate, her baby for the first time, that you know, she was just delighted. And I remember seeing all the nurses in the nursery, because I was watching through the window because I had my son with me, and my son couldn't go into the nursery. And all the nurses were just like watching with tears in their eyes. They were watching me, like, on the other side of the glass, watch the mother with the baby, and there's just no words. It was awesome. It was like, this is why surrogates do this, is like for that moment. And there's really no words. Trying to finish this video up. So then my son comes, and oh God, I can't do this. My son comes and he sees me from like way across the hospital hallway, and he yells, "Mommy!" And he comes running. And even though like I was in pain, so like I ran to him, and he just like clung on to me, like not even his arms, like his little legs wrapped around my body. And he was just so glad to see his mom, and I was so glad to see him. And it was just like, just hugging him was like, this is all over, you know, like it's done with. We can, in 2 more weeks we'll see Dad, and we'll all be home, and you know, we can be a family all together again. So the mother was able to meet my son, and she adored him. And it was so funny because she mentioned how she wanted a sibling journey, and she had never said that before. And she's like, yeah, she's like, next I want a little boy. And I told her that you know, that we want our own first. And she didn't seem happy about that that answer. And I felt honored, because she was so happy with how I did with her little girl, with being pregnant with her, that she wanted me to be her surrogate again. And I told her that, you know, we want to try having our own first, and then, you know, you never know what's going to happen in years time. So I basically told her no, because I'm pretty sure she could like find someone else in the meantime. And so then she wanted Broly, my son, to meet the baby. And so she was in the nursery. She went to the nursery, and she, you know, because there's glass, and she brought the baby over to us on the other side of the glass, and I'm holding Broly in my arms, and he looks at the baby and he goes like this on the glass, and he goes, "Mine." And I'm like, "No, that's not yours." I'm like, "You'll get a sibling, but just not that one." But I just thought that was interesting that he knew. Like, it was as if he knew that that was the baby that was in mommy's tummy for, you know, the past 9 months. And it's funny because he's only 2, but, you know, I underestimate how smart he is so many times. But I really think that he knew that that was the baby. And he just kept saying, "Baby, baby." And I'm like, "Yep." I'm like, "The baby's with her mom now." And it was really nice being able to explain that to him. And you know, because at this point they remember things, and you know, I have everything on video. So it's gonna be really neat, like when he gets older, and to show him the little girl, and as she grows up too, that, you know, this is the baby that mommy was able to give birth to, and it was able to help a family out. And so I can see where surrogates get basically addicted to this. Why they do it, why most of them do it more than one time. And it's for things like that, for those moments that you just can't get with anything else. Like, there's nothing to compare it to. And so yeah, the circumstances of my journey of like my husband being away for five and a half months over on the East Coast. And you know, if you don't know that, if this is the first video that you've seen of mine, he moved back. He got a job over Massachusetts, where we're from, and he got the job offer when I was 18 weeks pregnant with a surrogate baby, and we didn't want to pass it up. So we decided for him to go back home. And I had to stay in California because in my contract, in my surrogate contract, it says I have to give birth in California. So I stayed here with my son while he was over there. And it's been hard. It's been really hard. Like, the circumstances really sucked, but I was able to make it work. And I had awesome people to help. I had my roommates, I had the agency, I had some other friends that helped, and it all worked out. So, and I'm incredibly thankful for everyone that helped with this process, and for all my friends and family on social media, even if it was just, you know, saying, you know, good job, and hang in there, you know, this is almost over with, you can do this. It helped. Every little bit helped. And so in 1 more week, we will be home. And I'll go over some other things in other videos I'm hoping to have out next week. I will be done with school tomorrow, so I'm going to be working on several videos, just going more in depth in the surrogate world. I'm also pumping for the surrogate baby, and so the mom has come twice to my apartment to pick it up in like a cooler, and I was going to go more in depth of just like pumping for a surrogate baby, postpartum. My camera died. I only have a few more things to say and then I'm done. So yeah, I have a number of videos that that are going to be coming out, so make sure you subscribe, and if you have any questions or anything else, and I'm hoping that I included everything that happened in this process, or, you know, obviously during the birth. But yeah, make sure you subscribe and you stay tuned to the videos, hopefully, that are going to be coming out next week. And if you have watched this to the very end, thank you very much. You help my watch time a ton. And until the next video, thank you for watching.